On Hot Science today, we talk to an optometrist. We find out about a prehistoric Australian and see the latest in medical science.
Hi and welcome to Hot Science.
Yeah, hi. What do you think of my eye? Does it look really gross? Sue, what do you think?
Oh wow, it's really big. The magnifying lens has made it huge.
Ooh, it doesn't do too much for your eye either. Ooh.
Well, to start off today's show, we're going to be talking about eyes. But before we do that, let's just have a look at this magnifying lens. It's curved this way and this way, the glass. It's made of glass. It's curved this way and this way, so it's what we call a convex lens. And what that means is that as light, which normally travels in straight lines, reaches the glass, it gets bent and actually will come out at the other side of the lens, travelling in a slightly different direction. And with the magnifying lens, you can focus light. So the light comes in straight lines, the light beams can be focused at the other side at a focus point. Okay, well, let's have a look at our model eye. I'll just put this magnifying lens in a clamp here. At this end of our model eye, we've got a lamp which I can turn on and off.
Yep.
Like that. And I've also got a little person cut out of cardboard, a little stick person, and the light is travelling from that person this way through the magnifying lens, and the light beams now are being slightly bent as they come out the other side of the magnifying lens. And at this end, Rob, we have a model eye. It's just a sphere, and it's this inside surface here called the retina, which actually is sensitive to light, and that's the part that sends a message to the brain through an optic nerve.
Because with our eyes, they don't actually see objects, do they? They just see the light?
Well, we see the light being reflected off the object. It reaches this part of the eye, and that sends a message to the brain.
Ah.
Okay, well, let's have a look at, we've got the light on at the moment. We'll turn it off for a moment, Rob.
Okay.
And we'll just have a look at the back surface of the eye, the retina. You can't see the little person. Turn the light on again.
Yep.
And now you can see an image of that little man.
But if we bring the lights down, we'll see it even better. Have a look at this.
Okay.
But so he's upside down.
Oh, well, that's one of the tricks of the magnifying lens, of a convex lens. And in fact, the same is true of the lens which is in your eye. It's actually turning what you see upside down. You don't even notice it. From the time you're born, your brain is getting used to turning that image back up the right way.
So I'm seeing you that way up?
On the back surface of your brain, yeah. On the back surface of your eye.
How weird.
Weird, isn't it? And by you moving this magnifying lens forwards and back, we can actually change the focus of the little man.
Ah. Now what do glasses do to that? Like, say I have to wear glasses.
Okay, some people, their lenses don't work particularly well at focusing the image, so they might wear an artificial lens, a contact lens or a pair of glasses here, which can adjust the focus so it's perfect on the back of the eye.
And that's how the eye works.
Focus.
Focus? Focus on what? What am I looking at here? What's happening?
Focus on me, Ooze.
Oh, hi, Sue.
Hey. Hey, Ooze, I've just been showing Robin this model eye.
Yeah?
And remember, it's this part, the back surface called the retina,
Yeah?
which is actually sensitive to light. It's the part
Right.
that sends a message to your brain. But did you know that you and I have blind spots?
Have I?
Yeah, you've got a couple, and I've got some too.
Ah.
And they're because there's one part on the back of the eye, on that retina,
Yeah.
where there's actually no light-sensitive part. It's the
Right.
part that the optic nerve connects to.
Ah.
Okay, there's one point where the optic nerve connects on the back of the retina, sends the messages to the brain,
Yeah.
and you can't actually detect any light on that part. So it's really a blind spot. There's a
Wow.
really simple way to do a test for your blind spot. You draw on a piece of card, a
Yeah.
dot and a little cross, okay? And then you get a friend and you put a little patch on them.
Oh,
Ooze, can I put this on you?
oh, great. I love when you involve me in these experiments, Sue.
Oops, Ooze, keep still. I need
Sorry.
to just get your little patch
Yep.
over your eye. Oops, it's
what are you
tangled in
doing?
your hair. There, that'll do.
Hey! I look like a pirate! Har, har. I'm just coming up a little bit more,
okay,
Sue.
okay. Oh, there we go.
You
You're so
always
oozy and
got-
gooey. There we are.
Oh,
How's
that's
that?
better. Yeah,
Okay.
great.
All right, now, Ooze, what I want you to do is look at my piece of card.
Yeah?
Oh, look, you're
I
poking
can
out a little
see.
bit.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I've got big eyes. It's not my fault.
Okay, there we are. Look at my piece of card. I want you, with the eye that you can see with, just
My
to
good
look,
eye, yeah.
look at the dot, okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to move the card towards you,
Yeah.
and there'll be a point where the cross disappears.
The
Tell me
cross,
when.
right. Keep going. Hey, stop!
What?
Stop! It's gone!
What's gone?
The cross, where'd it
Oh,
go?
great, okay. Well, the cross is in your blind spot right now. If I move it out a little bit more...
There it is! Yeah, it's back!
Okay, so we found a test for your blind spot.
Yeah.
But Ooze, right now, Robin's over experimenting with an optometrist. Let's go and join her.
Okay.
Yep, I wear glasses, and the reason why you haven't seen me wear glasses is that I only wear them for reading. You see, I'm long-sighted, and I found that out by visiting an optometrist. Now, we have an optometrist in with us today. Lou, hi Lou.
Hi Robin.
Now, is that all you do, is check people's eyes?
No, we check for eye disease, any duress on the system. We can work out whether a person's long-sighted, short-sighted, any problems at all. We can find that out.
Right, now how does the eye work? We've got one here.
Okay, we've got a model eye here. If we perhaps dismantle it, we can see there's a cornea on the front surface of the eye here, and if we dismantle it further, we can see there's a pupil, there's a lens. The light passes through the cornea, through the pupil, through the lens, and focuses on the retina at the back of the eye. The message is then taken through the optic nerve to the brain, and you see whatever you're looking at.
So that's if you've got perfect vision, or 20/20 vision?
20/20 vision, that's right. Well, that's actually a measure of how well you see. Getting down to the bottom lines on the chart, for example, is 20/20 vision. Yeah.
Now, what if you're like me and are long-sighted?
Okay, long-sightedness means that the actual cornea here is actually a little bit too shallow, and the focal length of that curvature is actually behind the eye. So to bring yourself into focus, you actually change the shape of this lens, move the focus forward until you can actually bring things into focus. That leads into short-sightedness, where the cornea here is actually a bit too steep and the focal length is a bit inside the actual retina, and as the object moves closer to the eye, the focal point moves back and you can bring things into focus. People who are short-sighted, can't see in the long distance, can see at short range. Also astigmatism, where the curvature in one direction is different to the perhaps curvature in the opposite direction, or 90 degrees to that direction. And so the focal point is, there are two focal points, and when you look at an object like a thin crescent moon, for example, you'll see a ghosting of the image, a doubling.
Sort of shady. Now, I recognise these, Lou. These very attractive
Trial
glasses.
phrase. Hey, that's great. Yes, definitely. That's you. That's you. Definitely.
Now, how do you use these?
Okay, this is actually an object we can put on a person's face, and we actually start slipping lenses into the actual frame to work out what lens they require to exactly correct their vision.
Right, these lenses here?
All these lenses, yes, long-sightedness, short-sightedness, astigmatism. Yep.
Now, what about that wonderful chart that you use?
Okay, well, there's the bottom lines are 6/6 or 20/20 vision in metric notation, and that's what I'm interested in, is your best vision, how well you see at your maximum.
Now, how do you take care of your eyes?
Well, I think you've got to protect yourself against radiation and perhaps injury to the eye. I think they're the two most important theyes. If you're going to go to the beach all day, then you've got to have your UV protection sunglasses on, or if you're out doing the whippersnipping, you've got to make sure you're wearing protective eyeglasses, otherwise you run the risk of doing serious long-term damage to the eyes, and you only get one pair, so look after them.
That's it, right. Now, how do you know if you've got a problem? Can I take these off?
Yeah, sure. If you actually find yourself, struggling to see things on the blackboard, perhaps you might find that, you go to read and you're getting tired eyes, or you're getting sore eyes, or headaches, some form of discomfort, or not happy with your vision, then it's a reason perhaps to go have your eyes checked.
Right, so your eyes are pretty important?
Very important.
Thank you, Lou. And if you do have problems with your eyes, go and see an optometrist or an eye doctor.
Next, we look at a modern medical miracle. The craniofacial unit at Adelaide's Women's and Children's Hospital is helping people who suffer defects to their skulls and facial bones with space-age computer imaging technology.
We have a patient here who's had an accident leaving a hole in the front of his head. He's had a CT scan where individual slices of his head have been imaged, and we can put those up on our workstation for analysis. This is one slice near the top of the head. As with the bone around the outside here and the brain on the inside, as we move down through the head, we can start to see the defect up the top here, which is at the front of the head. And as we move further down, we'll start to see the eyes showing up at the top here. Here we have a 3D representation of the same data showing the bone with the defect. Our objective is to manufacture a plate to cover that hole. Here we can rotate the data to show all aspects of this hole. The data around this hole will be sent off to a manufacturing installation for the manufacture of a nylon model onto which we will fit the plate.
This is the model that we have received from the factory. It is made out of nylon, and each slice has been fused together, similar to the slices that we were watching on the computer screen. We're now going to have a silicone impression taken, and then a quick setting plaster is cast into the silicone, and now we have a model of the defect. This is the titanium plate that has been fashioned to fit over the defect. It's fashioned on, of course, this plaster model to start with, and to test its degree of fit, we can now place it over the model, and these screw holes around the periphery will have little titanium screws placed through there to fix it into position, and these holes in the centre are little vent holes to allow escape of blood or whatever that may be trapped behind the plate when it's inserted. In the past, people used acrylic or plastic instead of titanium. The problem with acrylic is that it has toxic chemicals in it, and you can't bend plastic without it breaking, whereas if there's a problem with the fit of this appliance, the surgeon can just give it a little tweak here or there to make it fit down better.
Computers. Computers can be programmed and you can play games. IBM and Apple, lots of different names. Some of them are big, some of them are small, but if it has 12 gigabytes, it is not small at all. Thanks to the microchip, computers are a real big hit.
Erosion.
Erosion? Erosion! Oh, Sue!
Who's what?
I was a victim of erosion once.
Were you really? What happened?
Oh, you should have seen it. I used to live on this rock by the beach, right? And once this big wave come and washed and started to erode the rock and washed poor little Ooze out to sea.
Oh, that sounds like a real ooze sort of story. Is it true?
Of course it's true.
Oh, okay. Well, water is one way that things get eroded. We've got some footage of some water erosion. Have a look at this. You can see some farmland where there weren't many trees, and this erosion's been caused by runoff after rain. And look how deep the holes have been made. Wow, Ooze. Is that the sort of thing that could have happened to you?
Oh, yeah, it almost did.
Well, another way that things get eroded is by the wind. And we can do an experiment here with wind erosion. I've got some soil in a bowl here, lots of different sized particles. And what we'll do is put a pile of soil, oops, spilled a bit, put a pile of soil here on this ledge. Okay, and then instead of using real wind, because we'd have to huff and puff a fair bit, I've got a hairdryer. Now, don't put a hairdryer near water, and Ooze, don't splash.
I won't splash,
This is
sure, I
live
promise.
electricity and it could be very, very dangerous.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to mimic the wind, and we'll see how these particles get eroded. You ready? Here we go. Aha. Well, it's all gone, Ooze, and we should see some really interesting patterns. Let's have a look at our bits of erosion. It's all through the tray here, but there was an ice tray here to collect our bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Just bring it over here, Ooze.
Okay.
And let's have a look what's inside the tray.
Hey.
Now, let me see. This end down here, where my finger is, that was the end that was near the hairdryer.
Yep.
And you can see that that's actually got quite large particles. And as we go further this way, the particles get smaller. And that really happens with wind erosion. The wind picks up all sorts of different size particles. The little ones, like dust, can go a long way before they fall down to the ground, but the big heavy ones only go a short distance and they fall down to the ground.
Wow.
Hey, Ooze, did you know that in the Sahara Desert, the sand dunes move south by about 1 kilometre every year because of the powerful windstorms?
Wow.
Hey, Sue.
See you later, Ooze.
See ya.
Yeah, Rob.
You know how Ooze was telling us that story about being washed off by water, and that was all part of erosion?
Yeah, it sounded like a news story.
Yeah, it did. Well, I've got this really simple experiment that we can show what happens at the bottom of a riverbed or, say, the ocean floor when water's constantly going over the top of it and eroding it.
Okay.
Now, to do it, it's really easy. You just need a bowl like this. We have a jar in the middle that's been filled to the top with water, and that's just going to act as a weight in the centre of our bowl. Some water, and on the bottom we've got a bit of sand. Now, see how it's all levelled out down there?
Yeah, it's nice and smooth.
Look what happens when I start to spin the water around with this spoon.
So you're just stirring the water, not actually the sand, are you?
No, yeah, if you do this at home, don't touch the bottom.
Okay.
Because you'll wreck our erosion. And you can see water erosion all over the place, like, for example, all the islands off the coast of Australia.
Yeah.
They were moulded and shaped with water erosion.
Will we start to see some
Yes,
sand
we can.
patterns?
You see how as I spin, the top layers of sand are taken off and they're creating these sort of wave patterns on the bottom.
These great sand wiggles. That's nice, Rob.
And the other thing with water erosion is it can take a couple of moments like what we've just created here, or it can take millions and millions and millions of years. And actually, if you're at the beach and you're in the water, you can feel sort of the ripples between your toes.
Well, they happen fairly quickly, don't they? But of course, remember that there is good and bad erosion. It's not all bad. If it weren't for erosion, then we wouldn't have soils because they've come from big rocks being eroded. So there is good and bad.
These are not rocks, but living cactuses, using this disguise for protection.
Do you think you could get a grip on this puzzle? Take a look. This is a close-up of something very useful that we use every day. If you guessed it, you'll realise they're pretty handy. That's right, it's the human hand. And each has 27 bones, which makes up 26% of bones in the human skeleton. Wow, that's a lot of bones, isn't it? Hey, did you know that millions of years ago, there were these huge animals that live right here in Australia? Let's take a look, shall we?
The diprotodont was a group of different species of animals about the size of a hippo or a rhino, furry. They were marsupials, and they lived in semi-arid conditions. They had two great big front teeth, that's why they're called diprotodont, and they probably ate shrubs and roots, not much in the way of grasses. At the moment, there's no evidence from archaeological sites anywhere in Australia that humans a very long time ago were actually using diprotodonts or any of the other large animal species. There's one site in northern New South Wales, however, where there are heaps of bones and tools all mixed in together. And we've used hemoglobin crystal testing as well as our new developed DNA testing and identified the blood of diprotodonts and DNA of diprotodont on one tool so far. That certainly proves that at that time, 30,000 years ago, people were eating diprotodonts. Your conclusion is that DNA testing, as well as protein analysis, will certainly tell us an awfully lot more about the way people lived in the past. We tend to have a pretty simple view of the way Australian Aboriginal people lived a very long time ago. But knowing now that they were using these very large animals means that we have to change our ideas about reconstructing the past considerably. DNA analysis may eventually tell us something about the extinction of the very large animals. Most of the big animals in Australia went extinct about 18,000 years ago. The reasons for that are unclear. Certainly it must have been some habitat change, but there are still big question marks. A DNA analysis may help fill in some of the answers.
Southern right whale calves have to gain 10 tons of weight in 3 months to survive their first swim back to Antarctica.
Well, that's a lot of whale food, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be.
And they have to put on so much weight because they've got a tremendous swim to make. They go all the way to the Antarctic in summer after the ice has melted, and that's where they can go and do lots of feeding.
So a lot of swimming as well. Yeah. Now, Sue, did you ever have trouble at school with your times table?
Oh, yeah, 11s.
Oh, I had trouble with all of them. I had this horrible little chart. Anyway, we've got a really good trick that you can use if you have trouble with your 9 times table. All you need is your 10 fingers. Turn them around this way. Now, to start off, we'll start off with 1 times 9, and I'll use my first finger, my thumb, put it down, and what have I got left?
You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fingers.
So 1 times 9?
9.
Okay, 2 times 9, put down my second finger. What have I got left?
You've got 1 on its own here. Then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
18.
Okay.
3 times 9, put down your third
I'll hold
finger.
that for you. You've got 1, 2 on their own. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
27. See, it works.
That's a pretty neat trick. Let's put it to the test. What about 8 times 9?
Oh, okay, I'll put down my 8th finger.
Okay.
What have I got left?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2.
72.
And that's the answer.
The only problem is, if you try and do your 11, like 11 times 9, you'll just have to tell your teacher you've run out of fingers.
It's quiz time.
Yeah.
Now, Ooze, first question.
Okay.
How many bones are there in a human hand?
Oh, I did that one a little bit earlier, didn't I? Let me think. 27.
You're
Well
right.
done. Now, Ooze, can I just have one of your little hands here?
Okay.
How many bones have you got in this?
I haven't got any bones in my hand.
Oh,
I don't need them.
No, it's all squishy, isn't
I don't
it?
even like
Yuck.
Do you like my patch?
It makes you look, yeah, very mean.
Hey, pirate ooze.
Well, Sue, can you tell me 2 different types of erosion?
Okay, how about water erosion and wind erosion?
Absolutely.
All right, Rob, I've got one for you. This is my model eye again. What do you call the surface, the inside surface, which is the bit that's sensitive to light?
Oh, there's so many things in the eye. Is it the retina?
Yep, you're right.
Yeah.
Yay.
Hey, take a look at this. Take a look at this.
Yeah, Ooze, look through. Oh,
you
it's
like
all
that?
green and
Close up of a
slimy.
You see up my nose?
Yeah.
We have to go. We'll see you next time on Hot Science. Goodbye.
Bye.